What's going on, everybody? So in this video, we are going to be covering some of the hottest NFT and Web3 news. Now, before we go ahead and get started, make sure to give this video a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And let's go ahead and dive right in. When we are looking at what's going on in crypto markets, everything's kind of sideways. You know, Bitcoin is a little lower compared to like that 20K. Ethereum is at 1.2. And again, it seems like Ethereum has been pretty stable. We're kind of in that, 1K to 1.3, and then it kind of spiked at that 1.6, which I think is kind of unnatural. So even with the whole FTX thing, and yes, it's unfortunate that a lot of people lost a lot of money. Everything's really going to depend on the macroeconomic, right? So when the S&P 500 goes down, people over leverage on that side of the world, it usually directly affects crypto markets like instantly. So you always want to keep that in mind and not just look at the crypto markets, but look at the economy overall. But hey, what we're going to do today is we're going to get into some crypto news and keep things on the positive side, right? So yesterday, if you follow me on Twitter, if you haven't already, it's at Patrick Dan. You want to make sure you follow me because I'm going to be writing these fire threads, hopefully every single day. That's the challenge I'm putting for myself. Recently just wrote a thread about like how Nike is taking over .swoosh, right? And obviously Nike acquired Artifact, and Artifact is one of the blue chip projects when it comes to NFTs, right? And so Nike is actually creating their own platform, which is kind of tied to Artifact, but I think it's its own kind of thing, right? And it's going to be called .swoosh, basically a website where people can buy and sell digital collectibles, right? The main takeaways are Nike is focusing on digital wearables that can be worn on a Clone X, but I think what they want to do is create wearables that can be worn on different avatars, different kind of characters, and especially in the gaming space, right? So they're definitely tackling that gaming space, mainly because people are spending billions of dollars on cosmetics, right? Think about like Fortnite, Valorant, League of Legends, right? People are spending so much money on skins that they're trying to get into the game. And if you can use these assets in multiple different games, then Nike has a shot to becoming the platform when it comes to digital collectibles. Now, the interesting part they're doing is that, not only will Artifact and Nike create their own digital collectibles, which they have already been doing, but they want to also work with creators to help them either co-create, and maybe one day they can just create themselves these digital collectibles, whether it's jackets, sneakers, pants, and then sell it on their platform. And of course, whoever owns the platform technically makes the most money because they get cut of every single transaction. So I think what Nike is really doing really well is they are tapping into that creator, right? Similar to how Nike tapped into the athlete. When you look at Nike marketing, they don't really talk about these are the specs of our shoes and stuff like that. They really just go for that inspirational story, just do it. And it's just like very aspirational, something to look up to. And I feel like they're doing something very similar when it comes to onboarding that creative person onto the platform. So they're going to encourage people to learn more 3D design using the Clone X, create these different clothes. And one day maybe they'll hire these people, or maybe they'll partner with these people, co-own their businesses or invest in these businesses so that these companies can create digital assets on their platform and they can make a ton of money. And the other thing you have to pay attention to is that Nike's bread and butter, right? So they are able to sell commodities as premium product, right? So like how much does it really cost to create a pair of sneakers, right? It's probably not super expensive, but they are able to sell it for $100, $200, $300. And then even the resale value of these sneakers, because they're limited edition, there's a lot of demand, low supply, then they just go crazy, right? So Nike's already a pro at selling digital commodities. And if they are kind of taking these lessons and applying to digital assets, well, it's pretty much the same thing, right? Even though the medium is different, one's digital, one's physical. I guess you could argue that NFTs can be physical and digital. The psychology of why people buy is going to be the same, right? It's to flex, it's to express themselves, it's to show people that I have something that you don't, or maybe it can be aspirational as well. And people buy sneakers when they, move up the economic ladder. There's so many reasons for why people buy sneakers and collectibles, right? And they are able to tap into that and just take it to that whole next level. So in my personal opinion, and I do have a Clone X, so maybe you might call this bias, but I'm trying to be as neutral as possible, is when you look at the entire landscape of NFTs and like blue chip projects, there's no one competing in that creative economy ecosystem, right? No one else is inspiring creators to do 3D and like learn how to create clothes and shoes and stuff and sell it with Nike. So they definitely have a huge head start. I think a lot of other brands like maybe Adidas and Puma and all these other ones that are thinking about getting into NFTs, I can see they have a hard time catching up because it's such a big gap, and Artifact is such a strong team when it comes to this whole Web3 thing and getting people excited about their products, that right now I think they're one of the strongest projects, definitely underrated. Now, I know that some of you guys might be like, you're only saying that because you have Clone X, whatever, right? That's fair. You might say that, but I'm really trying to be as neutral as possible. It doesn't matter if the price of Clone X goes up or down. My opinion stands the same. Factually, there's no other project tapping into that creative ecosystem, right? And there are other projects that tap into different creative ecosystems. They do it in a different way, like HUGEE, but it's not quite the same when it comes to those 3D renders that you can wear in the metaverse. Now, in other news, probably one of the hotter projects right now is going to be Memeland, and the Potatoz is their second project that they had as a free mint. So there was a lot of hype around these things, like a little plant, and they grew up into like a muscular potato, and then now it finally revealed, right? You might have your opinion on this. You might say like, oh, it's simple and stuff like that, but I think it's kind of cute. I personally don't have any, but a lot of my friends who do have this stuff, they are pretty happy with the reveal. Similar to Utes, the smart thing that they really did was that by not having a human character, they're able to have different colors for the potatoes, and with the colors of skin, you're able to just have different hats and then different weapons and stuff. Actually, there's quite a lot of weapons, but they're technically a little bit more easier to make compared to like an anime style art, right? So they all kind of look the same in a sense, right? But different enough so that everyone has something that is for them. And you know, all this hype is kind of driving more excitement into Memeland, which is going to be launching their main collection. I don't know when, there's no release date, but it's coming out real soon. And because the price of these potatoes are like 1.5 ETH, and then their first collection, which is the real MVP, which has very low supply, right? The floor is 28 ETH. That probably gives it justification to say like, hey, you know, that's why our mint price for whatever it is that we're going to sell next should be high. Now, keep in mind that a lot of projects are going to be do that, where they'll just say like, hey, you know, the price of the first NFT is really high, so that means the price of the second one, I justified why it should be higher. A lot of people might have different opinions about that, because if that's true, then wouldn't that incentivize everyone to manipulate their floors on the first go so that they can sell something high on the next go? I'm not saying these are manipulated. I'm just saying that for other projects who have the same mentality, it's not that hard to manipulate the floor of a project, right? Just so keep that in mind. So I'm not calling anyone out saying they're doing that. I'm just saying that you have to be wary of that, right? I like the project. I think they're really good at keeping people excited and things like that. I kind of worry that a lot of people don't really know what they're buying. They're just kind of trusting the team, which is okay. You know, if you want to spend your money that way, cool, right? But it's just not clear on what Memeland is going to be, whether it's going to be a platform, is it a marketplace, are they going to help creators? Actually, the more unclear you are in the NFT space, the more excited people are, because they use their imaginations to imagine how big your project can be, and that could be dangerous in some situations, right? But if they deliver and they execute way beyond what they promised or what they hinted, even better, right? Next piece of news is that crypto payments with USDC is now available on Apple Pay. Now, USDC has a reputation for being one of the more credible stable coins. Typically, when I talk to most people, not financial advice at all, they'll either usually have USDT and then USDC, and everything can be questionable in Twitter, right? Like we've seen with FTX and everything, so never trust anybody anyways. But USDC is able to be used on Apple Pay, which is pretty big for the space, because a lot of people do hold USDC, and if they can spend it on Apple Pay, then that makes spending crypto much more easier. And when I'm reading these articles, it's not saying that you can use it right now. It kind of feels like they are in the talks. So, you know, I guess over the course of the next week or something, I'll look into it to see if, you know, this is something that people can use on a daily basis right now. But, you know, it's definitely going in the right direction. I like it, right? We definitely need to be able to use our USDC bank balance to buy Starbucks. That would be really great for adoption of crypto, right? Because a lot of people, especially if they're working in Web3, they earn in crypto, right? And so if you don't want to, you know, move it to an exchange and then move it to a bank account, but just keep it on some kind of wallet or something and it connects to your Apple Pay, great. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be Yuga Labs acquiring Beeple WENEW. I think that's how you pronounce it. Now, this is a project we talked about quite a bit in the past, like many months ago. Basically, Beeple's collection. Beeple is one of the most prominent artists in NFTs, and he started this project where he does these collaborations with different luxury brands, and then they're creating like clothes, essentially, like a metaverse clothes. So if you go on the OpenSea page, you know, you can see the different things in their collection. You know, they're basically using different NFTs, Moonbirds, for example, or World of Woman, Mutant Apes, and then they're creating these NFTs where I'm not exactly sure what you can do with it. I think you maybe wear it in the metaverse, or maybe they're going to give you 3D assets. We're not doing a deep dive in 10K FT right now, but we just want to say that Yuga Labs acquires this company. So we see the space consolidating. We see Yuga Labs buying up everything from CryptoPunks, and they have Bored Ape, right, which they started with. Now they have this Beeple WENEW. So they're probably going to acquire more stuff in the future, just because like projects are pretty much having trouble like generating revenue, and like it's not really clear what the future is. So sometimes it's easier just to sell your company, right? With that said, what happened to the prices of these assets? They increased, right? So good job for Yuga, because this time around when the news came out, everyone kind of found out at the same time, and then you see this huge spike in 339 sales, which increased the floor price a bit. So yeah, if you want to check it out, see what they are working on. Just a random thing, but Adidas recently had a commercial for the World Cup, and then they actually included a Bored Ape into it. The interesting part is I don't think this makes that big of a deal. It's basically right here. So this is the Bored Ape. They put it on a cereal box, and then that's pretty much it. So it's more like an Easter egg, if anything. I think they're just testing the waters of what it would be like to put a Bored Ape there. I saw another commercial where there's a Nike commercial, and then they put like these CloneX posters on the wall as well. So we're definitely seeing like some, you know, light integrations here and there. I guess it's just more like branding, right? There's no, you can't really say like, oh, because we have this Bored Ape in this commercial, people are buying more Bored Apes. I think it's just more like, oh, that's really cool. People talk about it. I'm talking about it right now, so it gives it more exposure. But I found that pretty interesting interesting indeed. I wonder if we're gonna see like Clone X's and Bored Apes in like, you know, have a cameo in a movie, or like it's on a cereal box in a movie, because people pay for those type of product placements, right? Or just like how Mercedes might sponsor the car, then a character might be driving a Mercedes, and that just happens to be branding, right? So NFTs are kind of doing that Web 2 traditional marketing to gain more exposure for their brand. And even talking about Bored Ape, one more thing is that Bugatti, which is a luxury car brand, right? They are going to be creating these luggages using Bored Apes. Personally, I don't like the way they use the Bored Ape. It kind of makes it look cheap, but Bugatti is a luxury brand, so I guess the name carries it. But I mean, it's not too expensive, right? So it's going to be 155, 165, 185. I think they could have done a better job in using the designs, making it more tasteful. But hey, you know, Bugatti want to do this, they want to test it out, great for them, right? And so with that said, that's everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next one.